Hello everybody, Andy from Glass Half Dead here, the #1 Kill Team channel on the internet, unless you've ever heard of the internet before actually, in which case scratch that. I want to talk to you today about a little bit of solo play, whether you want to call it solo, co-op, campaign, narrative, to each their own. I'm going to refer to it as solo, but it's just a custom game mode that I'm really discussing here. So I want to talk to you about, I've got a few of these lined up. Today we're doing initiative. Next we're going to do fog of war. Then we're going to do creating your own custom team and making sure it's balanced and fair. And then we're going to talk about boss battles and everything I've figured out for that. Right, let's do it, shall we? Initiative. The reason I'm starting with initiative, in case you're unaware, is because I think it's probably the most important core addition that you need. But why? What is solo play? What is co-op play? In case you don't know, in the latest edition of Kill Team 2024, GW included in the core book for Kill Team the solo and co-op rules, which I think is brilliant. I don't think that the rules they've given us are like amazing and super in-depth and give a perfectly balanced play experience. Not at all. But I think the fact that they put it in there, to me, that kind of signaled a, hey, it's okay to do this. And that's all they've really said. And I think that's great. The fact that they have said, hey, it's okay to do this, speaks volumes, I feel. But of course, that then means it opens things up to us. I think they did a great job, to be clear. I don't think it not being super in-depth is a negative. They've given us a really basic skeleton, a framework, and we can then decide, hey, do we want to add to it? And the answer might be no. The answer might be, I like that they've included it. I like that they've allowed me mentally to play with the most light system possible rules. And I'm cool with that. and I'm cool with that, and I'm going to move on. That's fair enough. However, I think that it can be improved upon. Again, they've done it correctly, because if it was like 50 pages of, hey, here's a bunch of modules you can add in, that would be terrifying. Nobody would read all of that. They kept it lightweight and allowed us to add our own thing. However, I do think that if you were to add a single thing, I do genuinely think that initiative is the only system that needs to be added. Now, I personally love initiative. Don't know, just it's a thing that really speaks to me. Ever since I was playing X-Wing, and how the way like higher initiative means that you move last so that you can position well, but then you shoot first. Really cool, really love it. It's always stuck with me as just being a really nice thing. So let's have a quick look at my slides. I think I've made like 3, 2, I don't know. So what are the pros to using an initiative system? Well, firstly, it's going to speed up your gameplay. So one of the things, I've put speeds up gameplay, and then I've said removes analysis paralysis. These are different things, but obviously analysis paralysis will also really slow you down. So, speeds up gameplay. The way it worked for me when I was doing solo play is, obviously, you then go over to the MPOs, and what you do is you have to look down your decision tree and say, okay, I think the worst thing that can happen for me is if this model does this. Cool, that's fine. And for me, the most difficult part there isn't figuring out if I should be attacking, like melee, charging and meleeing, or shooting and running away. That's easy. It's figuring out which model to activate. Whereas if you have an initiative system, a system that tells you activate this model and then you decide what to do, that's super easy. And so these 2 points, speeds up gameplay and removes analysis paralysis, are combined, but genuinely, this initiative system fixes both of those, because as soon as you know this model is activating, you also know what is the best thing that model can actually do in any scenario very intuitively. It also lets you focus on your own team. So often when I'm playing solo, not that I do it too often, but you know, when I have, I like to just practice Kill Team, okay? I put down one team, I put down the team that I'm then focusing on and maining, but then I'm trying to play 2 teams, and I'm like, oof, gosh, what am I doing here, right? Having initiative, honestly, it just removes so much analysis paralysis. Again, these 3 teams are just These 3 bullet points are just identical, really. But yeah, like honestly, just having any system in place that says use that model. We are going to go into the models, the systems, don't worry. This is just me convincing you that initiative, if you're going to add a single thing to your games, it should be initiative. And then it also gives it the enemy personality. So, you know, like, this is just an amusing thing, right? In solo play, you assuming that you're playing it by the book, which I'm not saying is the best way to play it, to clarify, there are other ways to play. In fact, I don't play it by the book, but you've got 2 types of operatives. You've got your brawlers and you've got your marksmen, your shooters, right? And they all do the same thing, but then, because ultimately it's you deciding who does what, there's no real personality to the MPOs, which is fine, they don't need it, right? But it's kind of amusing if you're building your own narrative of your enemies doing different things, to see, kind of roll a thing, and then a model that you don't think should be activating, like, because they're just out of the game, they activate first. It's like, oh, weird. Narratively, why is this happening? And it allows you to apply a bit of personality to the team. What are the cons of initiative? There are none. Clearly, this should be the default, and you must do this. Sorry, the only way that this would have a con is if you do something that I sometimes do, which is generally I'm just trying to play the game, right? I just want to play 2 competitive teams and run them together. And yes, I'm focusing on one team more than the other, but I am playing them both. And if you have an initiative system, if you're playing those 2 full teams, you're probably trying to win with both. And an initiative system is just a negative for one of the teams, ultimately, because if you say, actually, I can't, you know, I need to do this thing with my enemy team, oh, but my initiative dice says I do this instead, well, now, of course, my main team's going to win. So I think when you are doing initiative, if you're trying to just get better at the competitive game, at approved ops, don't use an initiative system. In every other scenario, you should use an initiative system. I think it's great. So what are the initiative systems that you could use? So firstly, in the same way that the Kill Team core book has kept everything very simple and bare bones, I think we should follow that example. We don't need something super complicated. However, let's go for it. Firstly, dice. Roll a dice. If you're going up against an elite team with only 6 models, roll a d6. If they've got 12 models, roll a d12. Does that exist? Roll a d10, I don't know. And there you go, or a d20, right? And then I would say, honestly, keep it so simple. Just go left to right. If you have a dice, just start on the left side of the board. If you roll a 3, go leftmost operative. That's 1, 2, number 3 activates. And if you roll a 3, 1, 2, and 3's already gone, just go to the next one. 1, 2, third one goes. There you go. And then it doesn't actually matter how many operatives, because if you still just have 1d6, you just continue to count along for, instead of total number of operatives, it would be activated operatives, or expended operatives ignored. Ready operatives, that's the word. So number of ready operatives from left to right. There you go. I genuinely think this is the way to do it. That is actually the way I would do it. It requires 0 preparation, 0 extra work. You can just put down your models and you go. However, you can set a number. So if you're really into MPOs, you can just write on the back of their base, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, something like that. And then as you roll the dice, number 1 moves. There you go. And perhaps you could argue that that kind of gives them a little bit more characteristic. So number 1 is the leader, right? And maybe that guy activates last by happenstance. These sorts of things, but you can set a number very easily. It will mean you're writing on your base though. There are other ways to do it. You could put a dice by every model and say number 1, number 2, number 3, right? Just set a dice next to it. But then there's more stuff on the board, etc., etc. Then there's another option. So this is kind of a little bit of a blending of the 2 ideas. So this is roll above the APL to activate. This is a little bit kind of hybrid. So what I'm thinking here is you still decide who goes first. You are playing it to the best of your ability. You think this is This is the operative that's going to do the worst thing for you possible. He's the model, they are the model, that should activate. Then you roll a d6. Do you manage to roll above, or well, their APL or above is normally how it's worded, but above their APL? If not, you don't get to activate. You pick the next one. And there you go. It's just, again, adding a little bit of variety to what otherwise is just really you playing entirely solo. Moving on from dice, we can look at cards. So I just decided to, if you are aware of the game called Dark Tide, the board game, not the computer game, it came with a deck of cards, and on each of those cards there was a picture of every single model in the game. And then you shuffle that card deck, you put it down, and that's the operative order that you're going to play in. A way that you could kind of make this work is just take a picture of each of them and cut it out and put it on the table. Or you could go through KT Dash. You could also make your own operatives with this. So this would be an interesting way of combining custom operatives and an initiative order. Then you could also just take a standard playing deck and set a number per operative. So this is identical to the dice, except you're using a deck of cards, because if I'm honest, I think cards are quite fun to play with. There you go. Pretend you're playing Malifaux, right? Then alternatively, you can set a suit per type. So you can, I would suggest expanding the number of operative types instead of just using Marksman and Brawler. So you have, for example, Marksman, Brawler, Tech. Tech would be something that has additional abilities like a comms or something like that, or a mine layer or something. And then one more as well, I guess, Leader, I don't know. And anytime you pick a colour, a suit, then it could be colour but it could also be suit if you've got the four different archetypes per type. And then you get to choose out of the archetypes that you have on the table which one you want to activate, but not the other archetypes. We then have class speed. So this is another way of doing initiative. This is obviously a little bit more complicated than just random initiative. So what you could do, again, combining the idea of setting archetypes and classes, we already know we have the Marksman, the Brawler, yeah? So now we can also think of other types of classes, archetypes that we might want in our game. And then, for example, we could say something like, this is our heavy gunner. So he's a heavy, and then you could set a speed for every heavy model you have on the board. But then you could also have like a scout, right? Like they're a fast class, but they don't have very good weapons, but something like that. You then define how agile those are, as discussed. You could give it a number. You could give it a number if you want to get random, but I wouldn't suggest it. Just kind of say like, scout is speed 1, heavy is speed 4, right? And then everything in between, let's say the brawlers are speed 2 because they're fast, and the marksman in general, the shooters are speed 3. And then you just activate in initiative order. So you would start with 1, go 2, 3, 4. So in that particular example there, number 1, the scouts, as discussed, you activate all the scouts first. Again, this idea of restricting your options just makes it much easier. If you have 2 scouts on the board, 3 scouts even, that's still so much easier to decide what to do than deciding what 12 models do. So then you activate all 3 of the scouts first. Then you go to speed number 2. Okay, well that's your melee dudes. Okay, so then you activate all of the melee. Then you go to speed number 3. And again, just adding this restriction is really kind of breeds the creativity that we need and want to feel like we're not just playing ourselves. Because I don't know how much solo you've played yourself, but what I'm really trying to do here is just move away from feeling like I'm playing myself. And when I have to make every decision, I feel like I'm just playing myself. And it's like, well, And then if I'm playing myself, I feel like I should just play a full game. 2 approved ops teams with tac ops and everything, just playing both as hard as I can to win. But then when you add in this restriction of initiative, I feel much happier playing anything. Playing, yes, an approved ops team, that would be fine. But also just playing the MPOs, because suddenly I'm not playing myself. When I have to play myself, I feel like, well, I should be getting a specific thing out of this. But if I'm playing not me, if I'm having my choices forced upon me by the system, that is a much better game in my opinion. There you go, initiative systems. At the end of all of this, we are going to have a quick look at like the notion of applying all of these, an initiative system, a fog of war system, a boss battle, and then your own custom teams, and how to make a dungeon crawler out of Kill Team in a very simple and effective way. But that's initiative. Guys, if you watch this far, let me know what you think. Is there something I haven't thought about? Really focus on ease of play. Don't get me wrong, you can make an initiative system incredibly complex, but I think part of the enjoyment of game design in this sense is keeping things as simple as possible. You want just enough complexity in your system to make it work, and then stop, okay? Like, if you add one more teeny tiny touch that like revolutionizes the system, you should do it. But if you add another 3 pages that make it a tiny bit better, well, maybe don't do that. You know, that's generally a good way to view it. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. This has been my first, and therefore most important, because I think it changes everything, even if you don't want to do anything else with solo play video. Thanks for watching. Bye.